What's up, my wizards? It's Dev from Mtg. We like the magics, and I got some Friday Ixalan spoilers for you. A lot of cool stuff in the batch today that I do want to cover, so I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it if you don't mind. First of all, here's Legion Conquistador right here. It's a 3-mana, 2/2 vampire soldier, and when it enters the battlefield, you may search your library for any number of cards named Legion Conquistador, reveal them, put them into your hand, and shuffle your library. Now, where have I heard that before? All joking aside, this is not as good as Squadron Hawk at all. I'm not really sure it's going to see any standard play, despite the fact that it looks really neat alongside Catcher's Monument. I just think that deck loses too much to make this a real card in it. And how many do you really want a bunch of 2/2s that do nothing else? I'm just not really sure, guys, that this is real. However, if you can draft up, it's a common, so if you can draft up 3 copies of it in limited, that's not too bad. And do remember that in limited, you can play 5 copies of a card. It's totally legal to do that. Yes, it is. So if you draft up 5 copies of this, you can play all 5 and just fill your hand when you go get one. That seems like it'd be pretty good. So in limited, as long as you get a couple of copies of it or more, then I'm not going to say this is terrible, but in standard, it's not a thing. Here's Stormfleet Spy right here. It's 3 mana, 2 and a blue for a 2/2 human pirate with raid. And when it enters the battlefield, if you attack with a creature this turn, you draw. This is yet another card that I think is going to be really good in limited if you're drafting up pirates or sealed pirates, whatever. And this actually looks like a really, really good card. It's not too hard to have attacked with a creature by your 3rd turn. Drawing a card is great, and you get a 2/2 body. So I got no problems with this in limited. But in standard, I, again, do not think it's quite there. But this might be. This is Lookout's Dispersal right here, the old LD. It's 3 mana, 2 and a blue for an instant. Lookout's Dispersal costs 1 less to cast if you control a pirate. And counter target spell unless its controller pays 4. So Convolute is not the best card ever, right? But Better Mana Leak is kind of an amazing card. Definitely. And it's not too hard to get a pirate by even just turn 2. We've got 2 1-drop pirates, so you can play 8 1-drops. Shouldn't be too tough to get this on turn 2 if you need it, right? And even on turn 3, 4, or even 5, it's probably just a hard counter most of the time. At the end of the day, I think it's hard to argue against the fact this card looks really good. This is a really, really attractive looking card, and probably better than Silumgar's Scorn, which was a favorite tribal counterspell in Standard a couple of years back. I think it's better than Scorn. So that's saying a lot, too. Silumgar's Scorn was a fantastic card. But this looks pretty good, too, definitely. But as I previously mentioned, we're going to have to change some things about the construction and really the core philosophy of that Pirates deck. First of all, you have to play enough Pirates to still make this work. So, that in mind, things like Admiral Beckett Brass might still be playable. You got to make her relevant as an anthem, first of all. You have to play enough pirates to do that. And you have to play enough pirates to make her second ability go off sometimes. That means you have to play a bunch of pirates. We're talking 24 pirates. The problem is, the deck also wants to play this. It wants to play Fatal Push, Walk the Plank, Spell Pierce out of the sideboard, and maybe a couple of other spells too. So, to do that, we're really going to have to sit down and tighten things up and figure out what pirates must stay and what pirates must go in order to get stuff like this to work. Because at the end of the day, I think it's going to be worth it. Check out Rile right here. It's just 1 red mana for a sorcery that deals 1 damage to a creature you control. A creature gains trample until end of turn, and you draw a card. So obviously an Enrage Enabler, which I keep forgetting to mention on a bunch of cards, but this one is so obviously an Enrage Enabler that there's really not much else to say about it. I mean, give a creature trample and draw a card for 1 mana, I guess is okay. But I think we have a card that gives all of our creatures trample and draw a card, so that's not as good. In light of that notion. But still, I guess if you want to draw a card off your Ripjaw or, go get a land with your Raptors, well, maybe, I guess. But I think Shock is probably better for those things than this. This doesn't look like straight up hot garbage or anything, but it's close. It's lukewarm garbage in my eyes. Even in draft or limited, I'm not sure you're going to use this unless you have all of the absolute best Enrage guys. I'm just not sure that it's worth the slot, no matter what you're doing. That said, 1 mana to draw a card is usually decent. There's that. But as far as standard playability, we've got a bunch of red cards that cost 1 mana you draw cards. So I'm not seeing it. Here's Dinosaur Stampede. That's just a cool mental image. It's 3 mana, 2 and a red for an instant. Attacking creatures get +2/+0 until end of turn. Dinosaurs you control gain trample until end of turn. So this is probably at least a pretty good stalemate breaker in limited games. So there's that to say about it. But there's really not much else to say about it. It's not going to see any standard play or anything. We really don't want this In standard dinosaurs, we don't have the slots or anything. But again, in sealed or draft, if you're drafting up dinosaurs and you need like a big overrunny piece to finish the game off, well, one of this could probably go a long way for you. Check out Lurking Chupacabra. There's a Chupacabra in Magic now. It's so awesome. But it's 4 mana, 3 and a black for a 2/3 Beast Horror. And whenever a creature you control explores, target creature an opponent controls get -2/-2 until end of turn. It's just a day of really good limited cards and a couple of awesome constructed cards. We'll get to those in a second. We already saw the Pirate Counterspell. That looks constructed playable too. But as far as limited play, this thing is a slam dunk if you're building the Explore deck, obviously. Like, we need to see more support for that. And I know we haven't seen a lot of the commons and stuff in this set, which I imagine is where we're going to get the majority of our Explore support. And we'll see another Explorer in this video, actually, that I think is actually quite strong. So cards like this in Limited, if you can draft up the right pieces, actually look fairly strong. You know, the ability to pick off small guys is always good, especially on a body. So you got to be drafting exactly the right deck. Again, we haven't seen that much Explore support. We might get a lot more. But if we don't, then it's going to be kind of tough to draft that deck up. But hopefully, if you can get the right pieces, this definitely looks like a shoe-in inclusion. Here's Merfolk Branchwalker right here. It's 2 mana, 1 and a green for a 2/1 Merfolk Scout, and when it enters the battlefield, it explores. Okay, so another thing that I wanted on a 1 mana guy, you know, Wily Goblin, the thing that makes a treasure. I wanted that on a 1 mana guy. I also wanted just a 1 mana 1/1 with Explore. I thought that would have been awesome. You could have made it rare. I would have been fine with that. As it is, I think you could have made this card common. Very likely, but it does look really, really hot in Limited, so I don't know how much you really wanted to make it a common. But I would have wanted to draft 3 copies of this, definitely. But still, just a 2 mana 2/1 is already decent stats, at least for Limited. It'll usually trade with a guy, maybe get in like 4 points of damage before it gets stopped. But the ability to make it a 3-power guy or kind of draw a card is also really, that is really good for just 2 mana. 2 mana, you could do a lot worse than a 2-power guy that either draws you a card or becomes 3-power. I actually really, really like this guy. It looks very strong and Limited. Here's Bishop of the Bloodstained right here, the B&B. It's 5 mana. That's 3 and 2 black for a 3/3 Vampire Cleric. And when Bishop of the Bloodstained enters the battlefield, target opponent loses a life for each vampire you control. So it reminds me of Gary, you know, this 5 mana guy that does some damage to them. It's not drains or anything. Gary is definitely the superior card, but I guess in Vampire Tribal, like if you're building Commander Edgar Markov or something, this might go in. I wish it said each opponent. It sucks that it's just like one guy that you can target with this. But, you know, it seems okay. Like, Shaman of the Pack was a good card, but it costs 3 mana. At 5 mana, I don't know that Shaman is great, but it might be. He might be alright. You know, we've already seen a 5 mana Vampire Legend that we want to play in that deck, so I don't know how much this really, how many slots we dedicate to this. Although, I'm torn. I'm torn if you can't tell on this card. I think 5 mana is a lot, especially for just a 3/3 body, but the Enter the Battlefield trigger looks really interesting. If you can curve out, then you're dealing 5 damage. You know, if you go Vampire 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop, boom, this. And you could do like Vampire 1-drop, 2-drop, 3-drop, and then like 2 2-drops or something, and then this to get like 6 damage out of it. Like, that seems like it would be maybe okay in an attempt to finish the game off. And obviously, in like a Vampire Tokens build, we've got that 4 mana thing that makes 3 Vampire Tokens. That would go good on curve with this. We've got the 3 mana Vampire Legend that makes a Vampire whenever vampires swing in. So we've got some token strategy going in Vampires, so it's not at all impossible to drop this on like turn 6, let's say, and deal like 7 or 8 damage with it. So be on the lookout. I actually don't think this card is horrible considering some of the stuff we've already seen for Vampires. Now here's Rampaging Ferocidon right here. It's 3 mana. That's 2 and a red for a 3/3 Dinosaur with Menace. And players can't gain life. Look at that. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, Rampaging Ferocidon deals 1 damage to that creature's controller. So this looks reasonably pushed to me, but I'm not actually sure that it goes in Standard Dinosaurs, you know? Standard Dinosaurs is looking more like it's going to be sort of rampy. You know, you'll play a 2-drop that ramps, and then sometimes you'll play the Raptors on turn 3, and then you'll try to get into 5 and 6 drops a turn or even more early. So I'm not sure that it leaves room for a card like this, unless maybe it's a sideboard card, or maybe we see a bunch of aggro in the format. But I do think the card is pushed. Don't get me wrong. I think the card is actually very, very good looking and could see play in Modern just because decks like Soul Sisters exist. Also note that it's not whenever a creature is cast, it's whenever a creature enters the battlefield. So this is really good tech against like tokens builds and decks that play more than one creature a turn for whatever reason, but especially tokens builds. So again, we see a tokens build in standard, this might be good tech against it. If you got like a black-white tokens problem at your shop or something, you play modern, this might also be worth an inclusion. I mean, before I move on, let's just sit down and evaluate all the things this card does versus its casting cost, you know. 3 mana, 3/3, already decent, that's probably worth it. Add Menace, that's probably still worth about 3 mana, but the creature's pushed at that point. If you add Players Can't Gain Life, that's probably at least another half a mana worth of an ability. And then it's at least a whole mana worth of an ability for that last sort of that line of text that helps you race against aggro decks and stuff. So this is like a 4.5 or 5 mana card, probably all condensed into 3 mana. So that's, I would say that is definitely playable. Another day, another legendary transform land. Here's Search for Azcanta right here. It's 2 mana, 1 and a blue for a legendary enchantment. At the beginning of your upkeep, look at the top card of your library. You may put it into your graveyard. Then, if you have 7 or more cards in your graveyard, you may transform Search for Azcanta. It transforms into Azcanta the Sunken Ruin. It's a legendary land that you can tap for a blue, or you can pay 2, a blue, and tap it to look at the top 4 cards of your library. You can reveal a non-creature, non-land card from among them, put it into your hand, put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. So this is where we're getting into the really constructed playable stuff. Right here. We've only got like one more card after this, but this might actually be my favorite card of the day, or at least my pick for most playable card of the day. Now the problem is that we've got like Sentinel Totem, we've got Crook of Condemnation, we've got Scavenger Grounds. Like, there's a bunch of stuff that messes with graveyards in this format right now, so I'm not 100% sure how easy it's going to be to get 7 cards in the graveyard in Standard. Now in Modern, it's probably very easy, even though there's graveyard hate in that format too. It's just really easy to fill your graveyard in that format. So they had to ban some Delve cards just because it's really too easy to make that work in Modern. Same thing might be true for this, but I'm not sure how much Modern wants this, because even once it transforms, it's pretty slow. But in Standard, if you can't get it to transform, it's a really, really good card for control decks. I mean, giving control players the ability to pseudo-impulse at the end of your turn, literally every turn that they have the mana to do that, is a little OP, to be honest. Like, oh, at the end of the turn, fish for a counterspell every turn? That, come on, it's a little much. So, and I've seen a lot of people saying this is the easiest one to flip. I don't think that's true necessarily. I think the Gia's Cradle is probably the easiest one to transform, but this one probably does take a close second. But again, you got to look out for all that graveyard hate. If they want to make it hard for you to transform this, they probably can, especially after game 1. But one more time, if you can get it to transform, this thing is beast. Like, just in a control deck, if you have the open mana, you'll use this literally every turn. It'll get you a card advantage spell. It'll get you a removal spell. It'll get you a counter spell. Just all the things that you built that deck for, this card will get you. So it is definitely worth trying. Even though it's a 2 mana sorcery speed thing, you know, you'll play this on like turn 5 probably, and then still have mana to back it up with a counter spell or removal spell, whatever. So, and by that point in the game, it really shouldn't be too hard to transform it within just a couple of turns, and then you've got the late game locked down with card advantage. So I just think this thing looks really, really dumb and powerful, and I can't wait to give it a shot. People are saying Control is either going to be terrible or amazing in the upcoming Standard, and a lot of people don't really know which. You know, it's either going to be awful or amazing. And this card definitely takes us a good step towards amazing. Check out Vraska, Relic Seeker right here. She's 6 mana. That's 4 a black and a green for a 6 loyalty planeswalker, so that's pretty good. And you can +2 her to create a 2/2 black pirate creature token with Menace. You can -3 her, destroy target artifact, creature, or enchantment. Create a colorless treasure artifact token. Or you can -10 her to have target player's life total become 1. So the big debate today is, will this see play at 6 mana? A lot of people are saying they could have made this 5 mana and 4 loyalty, and it probably would have been more likely to see play. I actually kind of agree with that, all things considered, but at 6 mana, I'm still a fan. First of all, I think it's worth noting that you can use her -3 twice and just kill her. That's kind of cool, because a lot of planeswalkers that have a minus removal ability, you have to like do it once and then plus them and then do it again. This one you can just do it 2 turns in a row straight away if you think that's worth your 6 mana. That might be relevant. Another cool thing, by the way, is that this ticks up by 2 to make a creature. I like planeswalkers that tick up to make creatures. I like planeswalkers that are just 0 make a creature. When they tick up to do it, that's even way, way better. And it creates an evasive creature. I think that's cool too. And finally, the ultimate. The ultimate is so serious. Like, some ultimates just straight up say win the game. And this isn't technically one of them, but it might as well be, especially considering if you've ticked it up twice to get to your ultimate by that point, you've made a couple of guys with menace. So unless they have 4 guys, they're gonna die. Of course, they might have 4 guys by turn 8, which is probably when you're going to get this off. And it's weird because it probably doesn't go in the Pirates deck unless you've got a bunch of cards lower than this on the curve that make treasure tokens, you know, and that might actually be worth it. If you play like Wily Goblin, Captain Lannery Storm, then you could probably fit this in as a 1 or 2 of if you really, really wanted to. But at the end of the day, I'm not sure that deck wants 6 drops like at all. I'm not sure a lot of decks that don't have dinosaurs in them want 6 drops, so this is gonna have to find a home. But as far as just like sheer power level, I think this has the chops, man. Everything it does is good. Just a couple of turns away from its ultimate when it enters the battlefield. It's got a really, really high starting loyalty, which I think is great. Just putting it at 8 loyalty and making a guy to block for it is going to make it really hard for them to kill it before you untap again with it. So there's a lot of pros about this card, despite the fact that it's 6 mana. So if it can find a home, it's going to be real. Like, Abzan? Can we bring Abzan back? Because this looks like a great curve topper for that. It's just there are definite ways to play this card. We'll just have to see if those are popular decks in the format. But one thing or another, like, this card looks very powerful to me. It's not Elspeth as far as, like, 6 mana planeswalkers go, but it is pretty dang close. Honestly, I wish it made 3 dudes with its plus ability, but you can't always get what you want, you know? But still, the card does look powerful, and I'm not just going to bag on it just because it's 6 mana. You know, there's definitely 6 mana walkers that we've played in the past, so I'll give it a chance. But that's all the spoilers for today so far, at least. There might be a couple of more as we approach the nighttime here, but I hope you had a happy F&M, you know, unless this video comes out before F&M, wherever you are, then I hope you have a happy F&M, or just a happy Friday night. Go out and have some fun, either way. But in any case, if you enjoyed the content, like the content, you can sub if you're new to get all the Ixalan spoiler videos. I hope you do that, because I'm looking for some subs, man. Let's get to 100,000. We can do this. Like, I'm totally serious. I know it's like 38,000 away, but we can do it, guys. Help me out. And you can also follow me on Twitter if you want to. That's SBMTG Dev. Or if you're also cool, you can kick me $1 on Patreon at patreon.com/SBMTG. But for now, take to the comments section. Let me know how wrong I am or how right I am. That feels good too. Down there about all of these. Maybe I missed something. I'm always down to hear your opinions on these if I didn't cover something. So take to the comments section. Let me know how dumb I am. But anyway, I'm Deb from The Place. Thanks for watching, my wizards. This video was brought to you in part by TCGplayer.com, where you can already get pre-orders on a lot of Ixalan singles. I talked about Mavrin Fane earlier, but not by name. Here he is right here. He's a vampire legend that creates vampires when vampires attack, which they will be doing in the tribal deck, I would imagine. You can pick this guy up for only $1.50 right now, and he actually looks like he might be a lot more powerful than people are giving him credit for. Another card I've been a little surprised by the low price of is Siren Stormtamer, which is just under $2 on TCG Player right now. I know this is an uncommon, but it could see multi-format play. There's plenty of modern decks that might want this card, and when that happens, cards tend to shoot up to $5, $6, or more dollars, see Fatal Push and others. So I would honestly go ahead and get my Stormtamers right now. They are trending upwards, so you might want to get them before they go up anymore, because it's going to be in lots and lots of decks. Definitely in Standard, but possibly in Modern too. So go ahead and pick up your copies. In any case, I'll leave a link in the description so you can check out the prices for yourself on TCG Player, and you can order what you want instead of me telling you what to order. I'm not the boss of you, so do all that stuff, and I will see you cats later. I'm Deb from The Place. Thanks for watching, my wizards.